So what is it about conservatives and this whole racism thing? Like, you guys are always just saying that it's either not a thing or it's, just not in any of the institutions or the police department. But it seems that over the past 18 years, we've had several race riots, and the biggest one being in 2020. So it's like, how are we still denying segregation in a city where we can clearly see what fucking neighborhoods are white, which ones are black, which ones are Latino, and we know how we got there. So it's like, what is it with conservatives and admitting that there's a problem?
Give me an example of one thing you as a black man cannot do that I as a white man can do in America.
Got you. Okay, so about 2 weeks ago, right, I went to a DeSantis rally. Got my ticket, all that good bullshit. Been to a million different rallies of a kind, whether, I was a conservative at the time or whether I was a liberal, right? I know that as a black person, I am far more likely to be arrested for expressing my view, whether I am a conservative or a liberal. And I've done it on both sides. And, oh, yes, I was arrested.
You were probably being a jerk. That's why you were
actually,
arrested,
and
not
that's the
because
best
of
part,
color
and that's
of
the
your
best
skin.
part, right? That's the best part. I wasn't even being a jerk. And the courts even found, our beloved courts.
Let me make sure I understand this. So you think the bigger problem than fathers not being in the home is a abstract conspiracy theory that you have that hecklers and jerks at political events are arrested because of the color of their skin? I'm sorry, sir. You're kind of demonstrating you can't answer the question.
Would you like to talk about? I mean, we can talk about it. We can.
Okay.
Are you ready to address it, though?
Well,
are you ready to address it?
Yeah.
Because we can.
How about affirmative action at this college that discriminates against Asian students and white students? How about affirmative action hiring practices in the federal government? We are such a decent, non-racist country. The best example that he has is to show that he was mistreated. And if he acted like this at the DeSantis event, I can see why he was kicked out of the DeSantis event.
Are you ready to address it?
Yeah.
Because we.
I forgot where everything was. Jeez Louise. Sorry, guys. I seriously, like, today, this was all foreign to me. It hasn't even been that long. I've done way longer breaks in between episodes. I know. But for some reason, ooh, and I got the AC on again. It's loud today. It was hot as hell today. Anyway, there's some reason this time getting back on, and there's kind of a reason why, but it still doesn't really explain why it was so bad. Because, man, the reason I'm on this late is because it literally took me all day to get everything organized. I made one new animation for the ending credit sequence. That was a 2-day long endeavor for some reason, and the big hang up was that I was recognizing as I was working on the last show's sort of prep work, and I was testing some stuff out, that somewhere along the line, all of my my software effects for plugins for audio enhancement for the for sound clips, music, and anything that's running through the computer and not through me, was not getting the enhancement from the digital effects, the run through. And I was like, okay, well, that's weird, and that kind of defeats the purpose of a lot of the stuff I'm using. So wait, hold on, let me fix this. And it turned out to be a much bigger problem than I imagined, because oh boy, that went down a rabbit hole that I was not prepared for in the slightest. And oh, hold on just a second, let me make sure nothing's going to surprise me right now. Because, oh yeah, no, we're good. But yeah, that really was a bad idea, because my God, that just, as a matter of fact, I need too close here. Oh boy, yeah, I just ended up taking forever to freaking get into the settings for. I mean, I was getting loop uh, loop feedback that was like infinite loop feedback that was coming from both channels, and it was bleeding into the mic. Then I was hearing the mic every time I was using any channel, and it's like, oh my god, it was a nightmare. It took days to get that. Um, but it wasn't just that. I kind of have. Well, I don't want to go too deep into it because I don't want to. I've talked about how I'm tired of whining and complaining on the channel, and I'm not going to do that nearly as much. But I do think this is kind of important because uh, I guess the best way I could put it to make it as as sort of just non-personal as possible is just that um, I've talked multiple times about sort of health conditions that I've been having to deal with recently, and things have kind of taken a bad turn. I don't even like really saying it. I'm not like I'm not at risk of death or anything, but like as far as as far as doing the show, I mean, there's been there's a reason why it's been so long, and this time it was genuinely kind of like taking a step back and saying, is this because of something I'm doing that I'm doing wrong, or is this because of something that I'm trying to do and I'm not able to do, and I was before and I'm not now, and it was hard to admit, but yeah, it was like yeah, you're just not capable of doing it because of until something is like formally diagnosed for an issue, and something is prescribed either medication or therapy of some kind or whatever it is. um, there's not going to be any kind of realistic way to ensure that I'm going to be able to uh, do a show anywhere near as much as I want to, as much as I even might try, because it's surprising when you don't even touch, I don't even touch OBS or any of my recording software, my DAW, or the even the mic. I don't even really. Every once in a while, back in the day, I used to play games. And I used to turn the mic on. Every once in a great while, I'll talk to some friends on Discord, but that's about as far as it goes. So it's not like that's really interfering with anything. But it's crazy how much there's that big of a difference in between doing a show and then doing another show, and then all of a sudden, like, things look totally different or something's changed. I don't know if it's like if it's just my imagination or if it's just like updates, or if there's anything else, if something else is going on that I'm just completely missing. I don't know. But anyway, I'm only mentioning it because I just kind of came to the realization that even it sounds like a kind of a bitch move to say this, but I don't know any other way to describe it than it's, as much as I want it to be, it's just not completely in my hands at the moment, and so it sucks. It really sucks. I don't want to put it on pause. I was having a fantastic streak just before this all went down, and everything was looking so much better, and I was really stoked for the next few episodes coming up, and I thought everything was going to continue, and it wasn't the best situation, but at least a couple shows a week was better than a time period where I was missing upwards of maybe a month or more between shows, and like I said, we're not quite there yet, but it's just a warning that I could be, and I guess I'll just throw this one kind of silver lining, I guess, out. Just not really silver lining, but one sort of commitment, I guess, out is that I've said this before, and I'll say this now, that if I am going to pull the plug on the whole show, I will. If I make that decision, I will be on making the decision and making it known first thing to anybody who is watching, whether it's here or whether it's on Rumble or YouTube or a combination or on X and all three places, I'll make sure that it's known because I don't want to mislead anybody to think that there's going to be any more shows. But also, that's going to happen if I think that I can't do it anymore at all. But right now, despite the hurdles, I'm kind of feeling like it's just I'm in limbo. I want to keep doing the show, and I've never felt like that. I mean, that's not going to happen. I'm positive of that until I get some kind of resolution to figure out what the hell I can do to improve the. Because it's not like I'm. I'll just say this, and this all just close. It's not like I'm. It's not like I've got. What in the hell is that? That happens all the time now. Is that the light? It's got to be because. Hold on a second. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Why is that going so? Huh. That's weird. Is there a? Huh. Hold on, nice. Huh. Well, that sucks. Now how am I gonna get the? Oh, jeez. This won't go any higher. I can try this. Hold on. Jeez Louise. Now we're having more problems again. I don't know why that light does that. Oh, I know what I can do. That should help a little bit at least. That helps a little bit. Hey, but now I got all that fuzz behind me. Let's see if I can cover up the fuzz. Oh, that sounded bad. Not really. I have to zoom in a little bit. No, that won't work either. Oh, let me try one more thing, I guess. Jeez Louise, man, problems spring up every freaking couple of seconds. Okay. Let's see. No, it didn't help much. Well, that's. Oh, there we go. Hey, I found good seating, so there we go. Yeah, I wish that I could say that I was on track to being able to say that I was going to be able to improve the situation, but until I hear even a word of what it is that I'm trying to actually get over, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. And this is I will say this is a very unusual sort of condition. It's not. There's been a number of these three doctors have been pretty stumped by this, but there's supposed to be some kind of diagnosis after the next test at outpatient test, but pretty extensive test. So anyway, yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't want to get into it. It really sucks I even have to mention it at all, but I just wanted to mention it because just so you guys know what's going on, and that I'm not doing this because I in any way am like losing any kind of drive. If anything, I'm just more pissed off that I'm not able to do it more often. But and I still go through all my normal rituals. I still am collecting clips, and they're piling up right now. So I guess we better get started because I've got way too much to go over, and it really sucks. Also, finally getting into what we're gonna be going over today because I really, really wanted to make it on one more time before the America 250 because not for any real reason of show topic or anything I had planned. It was just I wanted it to be kind of like a lead in to be like, okay, let's highlight some things, talk about some stuff. Let's see what happens here, and then we'll talk about it on the other end. And since that didn't really go through as planned, that obviously didn't work out like I was hoping. But the on the flip side, there was a lot of stuff that was going on, and I'm going to kind of go over some stuff it's a little bit older, but there and some of it's more recent, but mostly I'm going to kind of go through some of the older stuff leading up to the newer stuff because there is one thing that is kind of beneficial for the show's sake, for having so much stuff to kind of pack the show with, and that is that what the hell is going on here? Oh, okay. That's the so look. There was the three socialist DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. Hence the title of the episode. And it's not hyperbole either. I mean, they really don't want the country to exist in any way, shape, or form that it's similar to what it is right now. And it was a wake-up call, I think, for a lot of people that were thinking that this was not going to go anywhere. But I didn't ever see that being something that was not likely. Like, once the floodgates are open for this kind of thing, there's going to be more that follow when there's a successful political trend. And that's the thing, too. I don't even think a lot of them even... Because here's the thing. A lot of them are just like the voters. They're dumb as hell, and they have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea what political ideology they're actually espousing. They don't understand what kinds of... They have no interest in looking up histories of old nations that practice different forms of government. They have no interest in looking up, Maoist China. They have no interest in looking up our the reasons for the Cold War and how things as progressed kind of exposed how communism was such a fucking viciously evil ideology. Like, they have no interest in any of this stuff. They only have really one thing on their mind. How am I going to appeal to voters? Like, that's the only thing that the left is, and that's mostly driven right now, of course, by we got to stop Donald Trump. And I've heard so many people going on and on about Trump lately, and it's like, he's not... I get when people are complaining, I guess, about... I don't agree, but I get when people are complaining about Iran, at least, because, there's always an argument to not be in a conflict, although this is one of the more mild conflicts, and the blowing out of proportion really is kind of getting old at this point. Like, the amount of people who are screaming that we're falling into catastrophe because of this foreign war. It's like, okay, I don't see it. Where's the catastrophe? And also, even on the financial, like, I don't think people remember at all the early to mid years of the last administration. Like, does anybody remember what it was like towards the end and right after the main scare of COVID and everything started blowing up economically, and literally we're in an explosive recession, or not recession. Well, yeah, we were in a recession, but we were in an explosive freaking inflationary cycle where we were reaching upwards of 9% inflation in some instances. Like, and now we're down to like three, upper 3, lower 4, and people are flipping out like, "Oh my God, this is unsustainable." It's only slightly above what the more average inflation, maybe a little more than slightly, but it's not much more than we go through on a normal inflationary cycle during standard economic times. It's not unmanageable. The issue is that and this is the issue because of a lot of at the heart of a lot of um, things going wrong in the country. This is really the key point of what is wrong is that any issue that could be detrimental is exacerbated by Democrats in the legislative branch extending the pain for all it's worth and making it as painful as possible, and then blaming Trump for all of it while they were the ones that extended it for as long as they could, and then claiming that they were the saviors that came in and ended all of the horrible financial burden from getting worse because of all the noble deeds they did to. And it's like, you guys were the ones holding up payment to like all the employees because you were pissed off at immigration. You guys were the ones that were flaming mad because we weren't funding programs in South America and the Middle East that were about DEI and trans rights. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? Where's Trump's role in any of that? I don't remember him having anything to do with any of those things. And of course, he didn't have anything to do with any of those things because he's not promoting any of those things. The problem is that what I'm seeing, and I'm really disturbed by, is that it doesn't really matter whether you're talking about the House or the Senate right now at this point. They are both acting completely and totally I've said this before. The House and the Senate, this is not anything at all like the way the House and the Senate were meant to operate by way of our founding documents and the role of the legislative branch. They are never doing. I mean, first of all, there weren't a million agencies, obviously, so there wasn't all that work. But they weren't talking about adding more agencies and adding more funding for more agencies and more funding to the old agencies you already have, and then adding more funding to this. There weren't taxes like that to support that kind of shit. There wasn't even really a social safety net at all. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that when you take on the extra responsibility and then bitch about the responsibility, you're the ones that want it. Like, but the American people demand it. Well, I think you'd be surprised how flexible the American people are if you were to stop taking their money. If you were to stop taking their money, they might be a little bit more open to the idea. It's like the idea behind certain programs is really. This is why Obamacare is such a good example. It's one that is kind of something that was originally a private sector only sort of service. It became adopted into a government service that, upon it being adopted, was proclaimed that that this was going to be able to exist side by side. You can keep your existing insurance if you wish, or blah blah. And of course, that's not the way government programs work. That's not how, they're not gonna start up these services that taxpayers are gonna have to pay money for. By the way, which means that federal workers. Another one that really got me was I'm gonna play this clip of Mark Wayne Mullen, and that guy has such patience. I swear, I feel so bad for the guy when I watch these fucking loons come after him with these stupid talking points. And there's one that really boils my blood. We'll get to that. This is one of the older clips I've been saving. But everything from FEMA to TSA to all this fucking loony old broad sits there and blames him for everything that went wrong with funding FEMA and funding TSA and funding this funding. It's like, they send ICE agents to fill in for TSA because you weren't willing to pay the bill because you wanted to stick it to Trump. And now you want to proclaim that you're defending TSA and you're defending the workers of FEMA, even though, once again, cut the budget in FEMA so much so they couldn't afford everybody. And then their directive was don't operate by helping those Republican houses. If they have a Trump sign in their yard, don't help that family. I mean, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the seriousness of the issue. We've kind of hoped that that something was gonna. I this is just how I see it. I don't know if it. I wouldn't say it's laziness per se. At least in all cases. In some cases, it's blatantly laziness. Almost certainly, with a lot of people in the House and the Senate, it is just laziness because they've never had to do anything really, to this extent, this serious. But then when it comes to what's going on now, it's like you've gotta recognize when not only is there a complete political party that is always against the president, totally and entirely because of who the president is, what party he's affiliated with, yes, but mainly because they just hate the guy. They hate the guy, they hate his personality, they hate his demeanor, they hate his policies, and they want to see him fail. We watched for 4 years, and once again, I wonder what's going on. We watched for 4 years as the last administration broke God knows how many federal laws and regulations when it came to illegals, when it came to government funding, when it came to the department's a government agency that was supposed to be doing this, and instead they were doing something else. When you are sending United States Marshals to the homes of people on the United States Supreme Court to protect them, when there is a statute in law that states people parading or picketing outside of the house of a sitting Supreme Court justice with the intention of influencing that person's decision is guilty of crime and is to be charged and arrested and charged. And yet, instead of following through with the law, they decided, we'll just sit out and watch and make sure nothing happens, because there's never any wacko in a crowd that's wanting to get in and kill some people. It just is. It's kind of amazing that nothing happened. But and here's another great example, though, because once again, this all was leading up to the Dobbs release, because the leak that had the entire country with its hair on fire, at least on the Democrat side, was trying to intimidate Supreme Court justices to not vote the way that they did. But then there were the wackos like the one that tried to kill Justice Kavanaugh, and that still wasn't enough. That still wasn't enough of a threat for the DOJ under the Biden administration to say that maybe we should just arrest these lunatics who are out here. And bear in mind, I'm not just talking about the murderous ones. There are tons of lunatics out there, because I'll never forget this lady who was ripping up like Cabbage Patch dolls or something akin to Cabbage Patch dolls, like these big fat babies that were made of fabric and cotton, and she's ripping them apart and says, "I'm killing the babies, I'm killing the babies." I'm sitting there going, you do realize we're talking about, basically doing that to something that's alive and inside the womb, right? And you're well, I guess for a group of people that anytime they see Turning Point now, they have to pantomime out being shot in the neck because, that's so funny. It's so funny to mock a guy who was murdered in cold blood in front of a university campus. Let's just mock that. Meanwhile, how dare you say anything about Gaza or the West Bank or Islam, like the murderous, monstrous demons that, ended up beheading infants in their cribs, and like, oh God. Anyway, but as I promised, here we can get into this hearing. So this is basically a chance for leftist senators to leftist members of the House, I guess, to air their grievances at Mark Wayne Mullen as Secretary of Homeland Security for mostly for ICE policy, of course. That's the only thing they're obsessed with, of course. And you guys remember in the last administration, what was ICE doing then? It was still an agency, but was it doing it? No, not really. I think they were helping out with, getting those sandwiches out to the illegals, but I don't think they were doing anything that was really, as far as security goes, it was really beneficial to the country. So, and it wasn't because of them. It was because of the orders on high from Alejandro Mayorkas and freaking, what's his name? Merrick Garland. Oh boy. Anyway, so let's get into this, which oops. Which I mean, this one is this one had me pissed off for a while. So just brace yourself, because it's not a pretty sight, and I've never seen this crazy broad ever really speak for very long. I've seen her question other people before, but I don't know what it is. But this, not only is she going on and on, but the chairman, who's a Republican, supposedly, mind you, this looks like a case of rhinos, but he's trying to listen to how much he runs cover for this psychotic bitch. I mean, he does it this whole time, and it's after she says blatant bullshit, like, once again, nonsense about how American citizens are getting rounded up by ICE agents wearing face coverings and in unmarked vans, disappearing people. The talking points are so fucking tired and worn out at this point. It's just like, what are we doing? Can we please? No, I don't know. Anyway, here, let's get on with the with this clip, because it is a good jumping off point just to kind of show you where we're at, and I'm gonna make a point after we're done with the clips from this segment. But this is just kind of keep this in mind as we go, all of them as we go, because this is to make a much broader point about the state of the legislative branch, based on the perspective from before, that things are not the way they should be in the legislative branch. I'll just repeat that point, and then we'll get into this. So you may have seen some of this clip, you may have seen all of it, but it bears, and it's worth watching again because of the bullshit that goes on here. So yeah, here we go. I wish I could say enjoy, but
I know I was in my living room with my 2-year-old grandson.
Oh yeah, by the way, so this is once again about this bullshit idea that they're separating families. And it's like, well, call me crazy, but if you'd gone through the actual correct processes at the border, where you're supposed to separate them long enough to make sure they are actually families in the first place, maybe this wouldn't be so much of an issue. But you didn't, because how dare you separate families when that could be a, human smuggler, that could be a guy trying to get in the country, that could be a terrorist trying to get in the country, that could be a sexual assault convict trying to make sure he gets in the country, and he scores a little, extra bonus on the side with the little child they stuck him with, because it's easier to get in the country when you're part of a family unit. And so they love talking about this talking point. Unfortunately, it doesn't work in their favor, because once again, they have no fucking clue even if they are family or not. There's been stories that are horrific about how 16-year-old kids, aka really 21-year-old men posing as 16-year-old kids, got into high schools or got put with foster parents and ended up killing the entire family, or attacking and stabbing a bunch of people at their school. Or, I mean, these are the things going on in the country because of this stupid policy where they, like, oh, you have no proof of who you are, that's fine, we'll just let you in anyway. It's so sick, and now they defend it like it's some kind of benevolent system of justice for those who are just trying to seek a better life. Maybe they are. Maybe they are just trying to seek a better life. That in and of itself is not a fucking virtue. Fucking Serial burglars are trying to lead a better life. That's why they burgle a bunch of people. Anyway, let's go.
In my lap, trying to have this conversation, and I asked him if there was a way in which he had a list of how you could reunite children with their families, and he assured me that we did. You know, when you take your clothes to the cleaners, they give you a tag, and you then go
so
back and you
stupid.
retrieve your clothes. When you get luggage, you go and get your luggage is returned. Well,
don't
I
quite
wish the
need
Biden
to
administration would have done that.
let me just say this to you, sir. Again, it is my time. 3,900
time, yeah, my
children
time.
were separated from their families.
450,000 kids were lost under the Biden
Mr.
administration. You
Secretary,
didn't say a word
Mr.
about it.
Secretary,
Here
do
it
not
comes.
interrupt.
Don't you point your finger at me. Don't
I
be a
will
hypocrite.
point my finger
Don't you be
at
a hypocrite
you.
then.
Point
Then
my
you be as
3,900
you should be
kids.
as upset about the
I
450,000
am
kids that
upset.
were lost.
and
You didn't say a word about it. For 4 years, you never said a word.
Here
Mr.
we go.
Secretary,
Could you put him in his place for
Put him in
You
his
should be
place.
put in your place.
Mr.
I
Secretary,
love Mark Wayne.
if you would like 4 minutes for a closing statement
Look
when
at this
everybody's done, I'll
jackass.
give you that. But while members are on their 8 minutes, I need them to have their 8
I
minutes.
started my
AKA, while members are berating you for 8 minutes straight and calling you every name under the sun and treating you as if you're purposely disrupting and harming family units, and want to berate you for 39,000 children who apparently are lost from their families, probably because of the cartels and because the administration didn't give a shit to check about that kind of thing. But and if they couldn't find any information, well, you have a new clean slate, But once again, no mention also, which by the way, Tom Homan recently updated the numbers, and I think it was something like 120,000, I think, of the original, because it was originally 350. It jumped up to like closer to 600 or 650, if I remember correctly, children who were trafficked across the border and put with so-called sponsors that they couldn't reach afterwards, after they'd had their preliminary so-called hearing, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. But they've been able to locate a number of the children that have been lost. Some of them have been, thank God, with family units, and they were just concerned about being contacted by immigration, of course. Now, you notice you never hear stories about people like that just being arrested. You know what? They don't run. They don't run. They're not sprinting as soon as they see a DHS agent coming out, or ICE agent coming out of the not an unmarked van, but out of an SUV, just coming to check on the welfare of them and their child, and while they're awaiting a hearing, probably but they just want to make sure that everything is fine, that the child is not with human traffickers, and that that they can scratch the name off the list. Those people are also, sometimes they're given the option, and a lot of people have taken them up on it, because this wasn't exactly the kind of a wonderful dream of a not perfect, but that idealistic chance for making a great living and supporting you and your family for the rest of your lives by coming to the land of opportunity. No, it was more like living in flop houses with some of the lowest degenerates in the culture, with no way to get out, no way to even go back home, because in a lot of cases the last administration took their passports or never even issued them passports, and just assumed that, you'll be an American citizen, because they banked on all the stupid shit like the recent, we'll have to talk about this in another show at some point, but the decision on birthright citizenship, which was that was absolute disgusting and disgraceful twisting of U.S. law, because, okay, I get the idea that you read the text of the bill or you read the text of the amendment, and you go by what it says. However, it's been mentioned so many times that during the debates for this specific amendment to the Constitution, because of how sensitive and difficult a topic it was at the end of the Civil War to be discussing the issues of abolition, and because they were trying to make this both an effective end to the practice across the country, but also that those who were freed would have a equal and unhindered attempt at securing the same kinds of things that we had considered the American dream, that they should have been able to have all along. Even according to many of the founders, that was the way that. And I think I didn't have a chance to go over this, but I heard a very interesting. Maybe I did. I heard such an interesting discussion on the actual reasons for slavery not being originally abolished upon the writing of the Constitution, and it wasn't due to some sort of devoted ideology towards keeping slaves. That actually was the exact opposite of the actual reasoning. The reasoning was that they knew that the King George was coming for their asses, and they knew that the only way they were going to be able to win in a war against the greatest military on earth at the time, the British Army, was as a united front, not as individual colonies, all with their own individual standing militias that were all going to be completely unorganized, completely just running their own individual operations that weren't effective and weren't efficient, wasting the lives of the people who were trying to make the new country. And the only way that the Southerners were going to go along with the North when it came to actually getting through the American Revolution was by not taking away the one thing they knew was going to be so controversial in that area. They didn't like it. They didn't want to do that, but they knew if they didn't, it's like the whole reason why you put a oxygen mask on the parent first before the child in that situation, because you put it on the child, he can't effectively manage his breathing in a way that allows him to, or her to gain control of their physical capabilities again, and they would have to then potentially administer, or not administer, but effectively put the oxygen mask around the parent at that point, who is likely much taller than they are, and so that's the reason why you have to deal with the parts that are going to be a problem first, the parts that are going to be unstable first, the parts that are going to be the biggest liability at first, by sort of recognizing that if this fails before we even get it off the ground, not only are we going to fail at creating this nation, but we're going to be ridiculed and a laughing stock across the world, and we are going to have our names and our lives and our families' names dragged through the mud for the rest of our lineage. And I mean, there's a lot of freaking wisdom in that. But once again, the idea that that this was just out of this evil desire to keep people as property. They're keeping people as property, man. Oh, jeez. Well, there's I don't know. It's just, like I said, when you see when you see the examples of what it actually was that motivated their decisions, it is so far removed from what we've been spoon-fed to believe as the as the left says it. We have a legacy of racism in this country that people are still suffering from. First off, no. Second off, no. Third off, no. And fourth, these kinds of comparisons are fucking ridiculous, and they literally do nothing because I guess so, yeah. Oh man. Anyway, so here's the rest of this speech. Let's go. And this jackass is.
I appreciate that. My issue is that they say this for sound bites, and I'm not going to let them say
What
something
did
like
you
that
do
that's not
just
true.
recently for sound bites? I sympathize with the 400.
We are going to have something resembling order here.
No, you don't have
Time
something
is the
resembling
ranking
order.
members.
The ranking
If
member
you
is
would
a
like to
useless
respond
piece
later
of
on,
shit.
there are methods to do that, but it's not a who can talk louder into the mic.
Yeah, you
So,
might want to remind
you are
this
recognized.
Thank you
psychotic
very
broad.
much.
I will not let her sit
Chairman.
there and lie and accuse something this ridiculous.
You
Well,
know-
this is the legislative branch, and it's my hearing, and so I'm going to
Oh,
try
it's my
to some
hearing.
extent to control it
And
moderately.
do
This
not
is-
accuse me of lying.
This is a really great point.
Do
right
not.
here. Oh yeah, do not.
I do not.
What are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna go fight Mark Wayne Mullen? Is that what you're threatening? Or what is it? You gotta take him to court? You're gonna sue him? You fucking old kook. Jeez. And Mr. Rational, Mr. Nobility over there, who's got no problem letting his members, just because he cares so much about his the members and his under his what was it? It's his hearing, but I guess chairmanship. I guess that'd be the only way to describe it. He's so concerned about making sure that they have their time to speak. What the fuck is she speaking about? She's trying to berate the guy by throwing everything at him as usual. It's the only thing they know how to do is go up and down the record, misrepresent it, lie about it, never speak a word. Don't you dare speak a word about anything that they've ever done. And then and then say, and I yield back. Not once ask a question, not once bring up a question, not even bring up a point that they want a response to. But I guess that's the point of hearings now, right? Just to chastise, take them away from their job and chastise them for doing it. Yeah, what an absolutely efficient. This is why we're leading into what I'm gonna say, which I don't have an answer for, but something's not clicking here, and it's just it's time to actually just say that's true. We don't recognize this shit. Anyway, I'm sorry. Let me get back to this. I thought I was trying to remember one other thing I was saying. But
I appreciate, and I said to you at the outset, there's concern for children across the board. We care deeply about what's happening to children. And I went to the border and I watched children in those fenced-in places years ago and what was happening to them. So I have a long history, Mr. Secretary, in this area. 3,900 kids were separated. Secretary Azar told me he had a way to reunite them. Many of them were not reunited till today. The bill that the Republicans have proposed for funding the Department of Homeland Security cuts cybersecurity budget by more than $250 million. It cuts the TSA by nearly $350 million. And the Trump administration is openly advocating for privatizing TSA.
now listen to that and really think about how absolutely ridiculous that is. She's acting like this is some big, huge infringement and it's a catastrophe that President Trump is advocating for privatizing flight security instead of, employing the federal government who can be, basically anytime they feel like sticking it to the president and not voting for his package, which is, there to help remove the people who are here illegally, but they can't have that. So they're going to block the TSA employees from getting paid. But how dare you suggest they go and work for the private sector where they wouldn't have to worry about this kind of thing at all because the government wouldn't affect the private sector's work? I mean, this is part of the point where you can't just call this stupid Democrat ideas anymore. This is like an agenda. Maybe she doesn't even know what the fuck she's talking. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt a lot of them have no fucking clue what it is they're even advocating for. But the ones that write the speeches, the ones that come up with the policies and the talking points, they do. And what kind of like twisted, manipulative, Machiavellian piece of shit does it take to sit around and just fantasize about how we're going to use the unpaid TSA workers as leverage to get our agenda through, which is to make sure that ICE operations stop. AKA, we don't want any more illegals arrested and thrown out of the country, so we're going to hold up another agency under the same bureau, which would be, in this case, Department of Homeland Security, like they've talked about before. Coast Guard falls under the same. Of course, also the Secret Service does, although, we've seen, I was just watching something about this today, and the stellar former employees for the Secret Service, that almost got Donald Trump shot and managed to, well, he did get shot, almost got him killed, and got his ear shot off. And there's still morons today running around trying to advocate the idea that that was staged. Somehow they found a young kid who was better than Robin Hood with a sniper rifle and a crack shot, because it's not just an apple off someone's head. Oh no, this is even better. He can shoot the ear off someone's head without any kind of permanent damage to the person's head, skull, brain, eyes, any other critical fucking facial features, jawline, jawbone, cheekbone. Like, there's so... And yet, yeah, that's that. So here's, that was terrible. Hey, how about we hold up funding for Secret Service? Now, of course, right now they don't care because they don't care about Trump having adequate Secret Service. But once again, to use the example, depending on who the president was, they might really care a lot. In fact, they might care so much that they would go to any and all lengths possible to make sure that they get their agenda passed. Something like some sort of stupid bill about, well, we'll leave that for later. Just, I can go on and on with some stupid. By the way, there's another member of the House after this. I don't even know if I can get through this whole fucking stupid, broad, ridiculous points. Anyway, and these are your representatives, folks. This is who is sitting in D.C. on your behalf. Do you feel comfortable with that? Even if you're a Democrat, you feel comfortable with this? Like, really?
Trying to eliminate their collective bargaining rights. We
Collective
all know what
bargaining
happened
rights.
earlier this year. TSA workers endured the longest government shutdown in
Whose
history.
fucking fault
There was
was
a lot
that?
of discussion and talk invoked about the long lines and the use of leverage to force through a Homeland Security bill without any reforms
Oh my
to what were
God.
critical ICE and CBP reforms that were necessary, that the American people wanted and were clamoring for. They didn't want to continue to see masked marauders on their streets with just harassing
Just
people.
harassing people. Yeah.
Congress eventually passed my legislation that paid TSA workers,
my
funded
God.
FEMA, CISA, Secret Service, and the Coast
Wow.
Guard.
My
And
legislation.
today, And it took you
You mean
79 days on
typical
the Republican
funding?
side to make that
No,
decision.
no,
To
no,
pay
no,
these
no,
people
no,
instead of
no,
just
no, no. It didn't take 79 days on the Republican side, you dumb bitch. As a matter of fact, it took something so fucking stupid, I can't believe they had to do it this way. Because Democrats refused to fund the legal operations of immigration deportation for people who are illegally in the country, and absolutely refused to pass any funding to the entire agency as long as one group in that agency was operating the way they were supposed to. As long as that was happening, there was nothing that was going to get through the Democrat side. Meanwhile, they pretended to be the champions. This is what I was talking about. Pretending to be the champions and defenders of TSA and the Coast Guard and FEMA and all these other organizations. The funding was held up because of these fucking people. And now they're running around acting like this was all the fucking Republicans' fault. This is what I mean, and this is what I'm talking about. We're reaching new stages of evil here. And people are so fucking dumb, they buy this shit. Because they don't hear any other fucking story. They have no idea what this bitch is talking about. They just think that, oh, wait, what? Oh, they held up funding? How dare they? No, they didn't. They were trying like every day to fucking pass the damn funding. It was the longest freaking shutdown of any agency in the country's history because they were being blocked anytime they were trying to fund the whole agency. So what did they have to do? They had to cut out a special section that was just for ICE and waste one of their reconciliation packages, of which they get 3, count them, 3 in a term. And so they had to waste one of them on this ridiculous shit. And unfortunately, that meant that now we're down to 1, although they are finally doing... I wish I had gotten to talk about this a little bit more. I think I maybe said something offhanded about it at one point, but I have been saying for the longest time that the Save America Act, it's going to require a lot of money and a lot of organization to be able to, because what we're talking about is not passing a new law. We're not talking about anything involving anything new. We're talking about enforcement mechanisms. We're talking about ways to enforce existing law. So if you pass it as a funding mechanism and as a funding bill, meaning you're passing a package that is around financial appropriation, that can count as a reconciliation bill. And they're finally talking about that. I was so relieved to hear that they finally thought of this brilliant plan that I thought of like 3. And bear in mind, like I've talked about this on the show, I've watched way too much of Congress now. Like I know way too much about this fucking place, and it just makes me sick. But I've only been watching this since probably the end of the first Trump administration to the beginning of the Biden administration. That was when I really started actually watching more congressional videos. And I mean, for as ridiculous as it is now, trust me, I'm going to go over this soon, but we're going to go over some older clips from, in particular, the Senate, and in particular, hearings for approval of sitting judges in different federal districts across the country, and what kind of people appeared before a committee in the Senate, and because essentially they need to be passed out of committee hearing in the Senate to be affirmed as a legal judge in the United States. And it also requires a presidential signature. Now, luckily there's not going to be that going on, although there are ways to basically wait a pretty relatively short period of time actually to try it again and not even really require the presidential signature. But even holding it up would be better, because what do Democrats do when it's Republicans in office? They they don't care at all about anything other than to stamp their feet, plant their heels in, and hold the line for everything. Because if nothing else, it slows down the progress of the administration. It lets them, get away with their bullshit talking points that they use on BS Now or CNN, dear. But either way, they're always going to be coming up with more schemes and more ways to try and hinder this administration. They say that like this is a good thing. When people aren't getting their checks, or when there's serious concerns about, like, for example, foreign terrorist organizations that may be operating within the country. Ones that, I don't know, maybe are funded by some guy who's with billions of dollars in China, who's been organizing these rallies for a while now, including the pro-Hamas rallies and all that other, demonstrations on campuses where they're literally chasing Jews down to be locked away until law enforcement gets chased away next. and yet these people run around, and I've got a great analogy I'll give when this clip is done. It'll never be done at this rate, but it's just the constant self-serving is really what puts it over the edge. It's bad enough that you have to categorize every single thing done by the other side as some sort of human rights violation. But then when you constantly keep fucking just jacking yourself off over and over again, like you're some bastion of fucking policy, fair policy and justice for people of America, which, by the way, notice you say people of America, you don't say citizens. Number one, it's stolen land. We're stolen land. So that argument's still running around all over the place, but it's also because it really doesn't mean anything to be a citizen. And the Supreme Court kind of reaffirmed that as well. So, they have these... The funniest part is, even with all that, they're still losing because they decided to, I'll just jump out ahead of this one. This is obviously for another day, but they have no problem with, nominating people who are clearly supportive of the Nazi regime during their time in tours of combat, as well as when they got back stateside. Someone who clearly has had quite a bit of sexual deviancy, and you might say pretty sketchy past in his in the world of the Plattner dating, but man, it's actually Anyway, I'm sorry. The way that this body is functioning right now, and like I said, they're having to do all. They never had to pass reconciliation. One of the reconciliation bills to fund the Department of Homeland Security at a time when at a time when we're in the middle of one of most dangerous periods of time based on the last administration's open border policy. And you only have to look at the actions of those people that were taunting Border Patrol, taunting federal agents on the border, and, unless the federal agents happen to be calling in the forklifts to lift up the barbed wire or bolt cutters to open the fence, then, which is just, anyway. Go on, loony bin. Let's hear the rest of it.
Talking about paying this. The administration continues to attempt to walk away from the collective bargaining agreement with DSA workers, something that the federal courts have now twice said is illegal. Indeed, your testimony frames the attempt to force over 200 smaller airports in this country into a new security structure as a setting. And quote, the TSA, this is in the testimony, the TSA is on the path to privatization. My question on this issue is, given all that the transportation security officers did for us during a Republican shutdown, how can it be that the department's position is that
Republican
TSA
shutdown.
workers should not be granted the same basic labor protections as federal enforcement officers? How can it be that your priority is to have them work for the lowest bidder, where the wages and the benefits of these workers
Wow.
will unquestionably be lower?
Well, actually, it was the Democrats that voted every time to shut them down. Republicans voted every time to open them up.
Pass,
So
just give me
we
the
didn't
answer
shut them
to my
down. You
question.
shut them down.
Answer my question. What are you doing? Why are you moving?
Ma'am, I answered your question. You were the one that shut them down. The Democrats shut down. How many times did you vote to shut them down?
Mr.
Why-
Chairman.
You know, these people come to us to get funding for the work that they do, and we ought
I'm
to take
actually
a look at-
factoring.
What work do they do again, bitch? What is the work that they do? Oh yeah, they protect your stupid ass going in and out of the airport. They protect your dumb ass walking around all over DC while you bitch and moan about the fucking reflecting pool. I swear, the petty bullshit that comes out of these people is unbelievable. They do nothing but bitch and moan. And under the last administration, they just cheered on as we fucking let in murderers, rapists, child molesters, human traffickers, drug traffickers, people who would destroy the country and if they were given half an opportunity. And it's like that was their utopia, apparently, when we're doing everything possible to make it safer, more secure and easier to walk around without fear of being stabbed. Well, oh, geez, this can't be happening. And now she's throwing this giant fucking temper tantrum because, oh, holy of holies, no, privatizing TSA, how dare you? Then they won't be able to, what was it, collective bargain? Unions? Those things exist that you guys are constantly yelling like you fucking actually still give a shit about anymore? But yeah, there's something called unions, and I imagine there would be a union that would form if it was privatized. Absolutely. What? You can't form unions with private or actually, yeah, you can. Actually, there's a shit ton of them. But I wouldn't expect you, who apparently doesn't even know what you did last month, to know anything about the way the fucking the United States system of labor and wages works, because I don't expect you've ever earned a wage in your life. You've been paid by U.S. taxpayers probably the bulk of your whole life to sit around and yell and scream about stupid shit like this. And then, Mr. Chairman, I am so fucking sick of Mr. Chairman. Every time there's even the slightest pushback for their constant do you hear all the fucking things she uses to accuse him and Trump and everyone associated with the administration of every single evil thing and terrible thing that's going on in the country? And he says something like, well, actually, you guys were the ones that were voting to not open the agency back up. Oh, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chairman. It is the biggest fucking MLA. What's going on, man? I'm sorry, dude. Getting a little animated here. But yeah, it's the biggest fucking sham load of garbage. The way that these people are, like, and they get away with it. Yeah, and they get away with it, because combination of pussy Republicans and Dems that are going to start shouting in their righteous, indignant voice. Well, they'll make sure that they protect them, and then the other reason is because once again, they'll be kind of just brushed aside by stupid fucking go along to get along Republicans and ignorant as fuck voters and supporters who have no fucking clue what this broad is talking about. But she said something about federal workers. She said something about inhuman conditions. She said something about the border. Sounds like it's good stuff to me. Fuck Mark Wayne Mullen. Like, and once again, they have no idea what any of this is actually referencing. But they heard those things from their college professor, so I'm guessing that, that's probably enough for them. I don't think I can make it through this one. I've had to listen to
work that they don't
I'm
do.
factually correct.
The work
You
that they
voted
don't
to
do.
shut them down. Republicans voted to open them over and over and
Well,
over
what
again.
the
Your vote
Republicans
clearly
finally
stated
did-
that you voted to shut us
what they
down.
finally
It
did-
wasn't until it became
Madam
popular.
Ranking
And then, by the
Member,
way, ICE agents came there and helped bring the
Mr.
lines down. The
Secretary.
same people that you also kept shut down for
Mr.
115
Secretary.
days. I'm answering the question.
No, you
I thought you
didn't,
said
Mr.
you answered it.
Secretary.
The floor is hers.
My dear,
Oh my God.
Actually, I gave it to her. There is a chairman of a committee. That's me. I
Yeah,
gave it back to her.
the smart ass.
tell
She's
me
yeah.
got it.
something about
Yeah.
who these folks
She's
are.
got who
Simple
these
question.
folks are.
And I want to start where I
Okay.
left off.
That's it. I can't take any more of this one. Let's get to the other psycho after this, because this is unbelievable. And God bless him. I love Mark Wayne Mullen, man, but God, how much can this poor guy take? Honestly, I'm thinking about starting a collection plate for this guy because of how much he's got to listen to. This is so stupid. This is so unbelievably stupid. The way that it's framed, the way that it's asked, the way that games are constantly played in this pretend world that exists. I don't know. It's just like, it's like we're living in, well, we're living in a place where one party, at least, is entirely happy with the idea of championing everything but virtue, championing every vice and every freaking apathetic solution you can possibly imagine, because it's all a game, it's all a power grab. They don't give a shit about America. They don't give a shit about Western culture at all. They would just as soon turn it over to Sharia courts with same, like, turn us into or better yet, maybe make it little Somalia, and then we can have a nation of fraud instead. I don't know, but there's a reason that these are the people that are elected on this side. What does this sort of thing accomplish? Does it accomplish anything beneficial for anybody? No, of course not. But she raises her profile, the old, weird, raspy, purple-haired bitch in Congress. Yeah, oh man, she's a real champion of the people. Wow, we haven't seen a legacy this strong. I mean, like, there's obviously not one lick of respect for the country or the founding or any of the history or whatever. But even in terms of their own voters, there's obviously no interest in them other than parading their struggles around as if it's an argument against enforcing our laws. Like, that seems to be the extent of their argument, even if they're not even legally in the country. And yet at the same time, they'll say the next interview that there's no illegals voting here. There's no illegals getting Social Security or food stamps or any kind of government benefits. There's no illegal immigrants getting that, as they sign check after check after check to some fucking 25-year-old child molester who got let off by some leftist judge that got affirmed in the last fucking Congress. Yeah, no problem here. No problem whatsoever. Is this with the freaking other crazy broad? Nope. Still the old fucking cranky ass. Yeah, here we go. Here comes fat ass Ashley. I don't know. Fat Alyssa. Fat Al. I can't think of a good. I'll just say it's Leslie Jones. Okay. Anyway, go ahead. Let's hear what you have to say.
While in your custody. Secretary Mullins, since Donald Trump took office, DHS's immigration detention system has been plagued by medical neglect, abuse,
Here we go.
overcrowding, and a historically high death rate. I saw these dangerous conditions with my own eyes.
Whoa, whoa. A historically high death rate amongst detainees. Where are those figures coming from? Because I haven't seen anything like that. I mean, are you talking about leftists who are trying to snipe at ICE and accidentally hit the? It's not even funny, but that's the only thing I can think of where there was actually a dangerous situation that was very likely going to put detainees in jeopardy, and it was a leftist who was crazy and was trying to kill ICE agents and ended up killing the detainees instead, and didn't get one ICE agent. And this was right after Charlie Kirk, so he thought he was a real pioneer, I guess. But I mean, once again, no mention of this stuff, because that looks bad. That looks terrible on us. We can't have that. So we'll just focus on some stupid thing that has nothing to do with anything that's going on and why we're even having this hearing. And like I've shown you guys photos of a facility, and call me crazy, but once again, and I'm not saying every facility is like that, but I will at least say this. The idea that I've seen and I've heard from people that have been in them. I've seen them, but I've also heard from people staying in them what the shelters, quote unquote, are like in especially bigger cities and in especially democratic states in the country. You want to talk about dangerous conditions, inhospitable conditions. I would say that is probably something that looks like the country they fled from, and the detainment center is probably something that looks more like America than anything in their own country. And yet you're bitching about that. Meanwhile, every American individual who happens to be homeless and decides to go to a shelter, well, they're in for a real rough fucking ride. As soon as they get there, they're going to be welcomed by probably a bunch of drug dealers, probably a bunch of freaking people that are going to be so fucking strung out on God knows what, they'll be ready to pull their fucking knife out as soon as they look at them the wrong way. I mean, this is so unbelievably stupid because of, once again, let's not talk about any of that. And Republicans are they're honest enough to admit the mistakes. The problem is they're not. I mean, there's so many chances to raise hell in these things. And they weren't. Here's the thing. The last administration, well, when these positions and the Congress was under Democrat control, they weren't afraid to do that shit. They weren't afraid to come up and hijack the whole thing just to get it across some stupid fucking message. And yet, when Republicans have the legitimate moral high ground on every single issue, well, you got jackass in the last committee hearing that decided that he was more interested in making sure that the psychotic liberal ranking member has all of her time to bitch and moan about everything she wants to talk about. But then you also have people who will sit by and listen to stupid crap like this. And because of procedure, we're not going to denigrate this. Let's just make one thing clear, and this is probably my central point, because I wish that this was not the case. But whatever this is not the constitutional processes of the legislative branch of the United States. That's not what this is. Nothing that's taking place in these things is now don't get me wrong, they were always vicious. They were always vicious. They always had some pretty harsh words back and forth. They weren't like low blows and misinformation twisted into a big pretzel so that they could make it onto the news and get invited by some other partisan hack to spread the same stupid lie talking point to a bigger audience because they want to make a name for themselves and extend their political career as long as possible. That wasn't a thing. That wasn't part of the deal. There was still a belief in public service, meaning literally, public service, not self-service, but, actually helping other people. That idea is gone, especially at least on the Democratic side. There are Republicans on this side of the aisle that are at least sounding like they're in good faith. Wesley Hunt comes to mind. That guy always has very, very strong moral compass and a really, really powerful message, the way he speaks of America and the way he engages with witnesses on either side. And he tries not to self-judge, or to prejudge, but when he's not he's not a new member of Congress, but he hasn't been there that long, so he's not usually early on to ask questions. So usually it's kind of closer to the end of the hearing when he has his time. But he will always use up a good chunk of his time talking about what the American experience was like for him growing up in a black household that grew up under times of segregation and racism, and then under times that got better, and then under times where BLM started, and then we had to burn down major cities because George Floyd. It's and you notice this whether you're talking about Charlie Kirk in the United States, whether you're talking about Henry Novak in UK. It's not Republicans that go around burning down cities and major metropolitan areas and buildings belonging to police departments because of lawlessness that's gotten out of control, adding to more lawlessness. You do see that when Carmelo Anthony, the most obviously guilty defendant that I've seen in a long time actually go all the way to trial, gets convicted because he very obviously had no reason to be anywhere near a stage of fearing for his life, and yet was trying to claim that's why he stabbed the guy that touched him one time on the shoulder, and that was enough to get a shank in the heart. And then, of course, Henry Novak, who I guess was white, and a guy with a turban was pissed off, and he thought he could weaponize it, so he stabbed him. And then when the police showed up, he said, "Oh, he knocked my turban off and said racist comments." Oh, how dare he? How dare he? And this is... there are good, hardworking people, good good people from the Arab countries that work hard and that support their families. And they don't deserve the stigma that are brought on by leeches and parasites and absolute moral abominations like that. And yet when something like that happens, it brings... This is the worst part of everything. It brings out the worst in every side, and only one side seems to care about that. The other side seems intent on just exploiting it every chance they get. Now, why is that? Well, because they've convinced everybody that they're the moral ones. And when you see shit like this, it's like that couldn't be farther from the truth. It's obvious. Anyway.
Visited the Miami Correctional Facility in Bunker Hill, Indiana, where I met with individuals who told me that it takes months to receive medication refills, including for life-threatening illnesses like diabetes. Others reported being left unattended with infected boils and other serious conditions. So it's no surprise that a detainee at that facility died shortly after my visit, or that more detainees died in ICE custody in 2025 than ever before.
You notice how she mentions all these random different conditions, but doesn't mention what the causes of death of all these detainees is? that's the part that raises. There's always some kind of red flag that goes up when they use these talking points that are meant to, you know, be coming out of this place of moral empathy. And that's the red flag in that situation. That's absolutely the red flag. No mention of what it was. No mention of where these people are. She mentions the Miami facility. She went there and there was people in terrible conditions. Oh no. Once again, there are veterans sleeping on park benches who don't ever get their medications, that are actually suffering from PTSD or fucking serious mental illness. Why? Because they never get approved for anything, probably because they're white and men and middle-aged and served the country overseas in the evil war in the Middle East of regime change. So they don't deserve anything. I mean, once again, and there's one really huge irony that I can't wait to get out, but we're gonna have to finish this up first. So I'm gonna try not to interrupt anymore. Let's just listen to this stupid broad.
Secretary Mullen, does DHS have any official, specific internal goals or policies to reduce deaths in custody?
Ma'am, your numbers just aren't accurate. We've had 0.009%.
I didn't, Mr. Secretary,
You're
I didn't
asking
ask.
about
I
this.
asked a
It's
specific question.
0.009% of deaths.
Mr.
And
Chairman,
we've had 54
reclaiming
total in the
my
president's
time,
president's time.
Chairman.
Those are dangerous accusations
Mr.
you're making.
Secretary,
Which
Mr. Secretary.
those are dangerous
I get
accusations
that.
that she's making because
we
in the
are
state
not-
of Illinois,
This
they're
is my
twice as
We are
high.
not
They're
doing a
twice as
taco
high to
Tuesday.
die in the state penitentiary of Illinois than they are in
you are
detention
invited to
centers.
this committee. This is my time.
And you need
are
to be
a
informed
guest.
by what you're saying.
I am informed.
No, you're not, ma'am.
Mr. Secretary, does DHS have
Do
any
you realize that?
official,
Do you
specific
realize that
internal
we
goals
have
or
one
policies,
doctor
Mr.
per
Chairman?
1,000 for detention centers for our federal detention centers in the state of Illinois? They have one per 1,800.
Chairman,
But
this
yet
is
she
my
wants to
time.
focus on our
I
detention
understand
centers.
that. You'll get your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I guess this is a good place to stop. We are trying to keep members to 8 minutes. Mr. Secretary, you know that too. That's fine. So we all know how the clock runs here. The idea is
we
to get
do.
together to forward questions. I'm going to have you repeat your question
Thank
when
you.
we start up again.
Thank you.
But I can tell you
This
this.
is
If
ridiculous.
this format won't work, then we'll reschedule the meeting for later when we can keep it to all the issues accordingly. So
That would be nice, but you
this
don't
is the
seem to be
efficient way to
listening
do
to
it,
a damn
but
thing, or you
if we
agree
can't
with
do
it.
it the efficient way, then we'll go to Plan B, which will not be today. And I
Oh,
don't mean that
no,
as a
not
threat to
that.
anybody. I'm just saying, this is not Meet the Press or Fox News or
They don't
whatever
care.
for anybody involved. It's what's the question?
I don't know who this
what's the
jackass
answer?
is. I don't
Mr.
know
Secretary, if
why
you need
he's the
more
chairman
time
of
to
this
respond
committee.
to that, the committee will
But-
make any of your comments part of the record, and we will endeavor to make sure that you get to meet with whoever wants more time. But
Right,
while we've got
right.
the whole
We'll
committee
just
sitting
listen
here,
to
we're not going to
just
do
listen to leftists in
the
Congress.
XYZ debate, whatever the heck. So
You can't answer a question that doesn't have an answer because
please
it's a
repeat your
falsehood.
question, and as
Like
near
this
as I
shit.
can figure, you got about 4 minutes left.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Listen
Secretary
to
Mullen,
this-
does
oh my
DHS
God.
have any specific internal document, policies, or goals to reduce deaths in custody?
And we do a wonderful job on
That's a
providing
yes or no
medical
question,
to,
sir.
we're doing a wonderful job
Okay.
at it. We have
Is it your testimony that
0.009%
you
of
do not
deaths in
know
our
whether
prison,
the department that you lead
which is a
has
lot better than the state of
policy?
Illinois.
Is it your testimony that you do not know whether or not the department that you lead has a policy to reduce deaths in custody?
No, I did not say that, ma'am.
You didn't answer my question.
Yes, I did. You're making accusations and you're not even
I'll
looking
take
at your
that
own
as a
state.
no. You have no policy or plan to reduce deaths in custody.
That's not
now,
true.
2 months ago, I asked ICE
Our medical staff
acting
does a
director, Todd
phenomenal
Lyons,
job. In
the
fact,
same
every
question.
detainee sees a doctor
said
or
that-
a nurse with every 2 weeks.
I reclaim my time.
Okay, ask your next question.
Okay. 2 months ago, I asked ICE
They're
Director
children.
Todd Lyons the same question. He said that ICE, quote, hopes that there will be no deaths in custody, but admitted that the agency had no actual policy in place to prevent them. Rather than implement
prevent
one, he
what?
resigned just a few hours later. Secretary, since
Mm.
that hearing, 3 more people have died in ICE's custody.
Oh,
And
3
those
whole-
are the only deaths that we know about based on your agency's public reporting. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to request unanimous consent to enter into the record a report that came out today from Human Rights Watch and Physicians for Human Rights titled Dying
I'm
in
sure,
Detention,
yeah.
rising deaths, and an expanding U.S. immigration
Yeah,
detention
man, 3
system.
deaths. and
Drawing on, I'm sorry,
Without
Hundreds
objection,
of
so
thousands
ordered.
of people.
so much,
that-
Mr. Chairman. Drawing on government
Oh,
records,
listen
detention
to
data,
that
and
little-
expert medical reviews, this report outlines
you so much,
52
Mr.
deaths in ICE
Chairman.
custody during President Trump's second term and highlights the concerns we've been raising to your department regarding the lack of access to medical care, suicide prevention, transparency,
fuck
and accountability in detention facilities. Secretary Mullen, ICE's detainee death reporting has not been updated since April 28th of 2026. The death rate in ICE custody has doubled during President Trump's second term. Will you commit to
Yeah,
reporting
'cause how many
detainee
people are
deaths
in
as
custody?
required by law?
We
Jesus.
do report them, ma'am. No one,
So is it your
I don't know.
testimony
I-
then
we
that there
report
is
these.
no...
What you're talking about is what Congress has asked us to do, which we're not required to do, is report the deaths after they're released. That
no.
doesn't make any sense. They're not
Okay,
under our
Mr.
watch at that
Secretary,
point. If
is
they
it your
die in
testimony-
Ah,
our release, we
Is it your
report them.
testimony
See, I
that
told
there
you
have
there's
been
a
no
red
deaths
flag
since April
somewhere.
28th?
I didn't say that.
Didn't tell them what they're
so
dying
are you going
of.
to commit to complying with the required reporting
And
requirement?
we were shut down for
Okay,
115
under
days under this
reclaiming my
department.
time.
So I don't
There's
know
that
what you.
too.
We just now reopened. So I don't know what reports you're wanting us to do
Chairman, I
when
don't
you
know
weren't
what
willing to
to tell you,
fund
Mr.
us.
Chairman.
You want the reports, but you don't want to fund us. That
Secretary's
makes no
belligerent
sense.
here and has been taking
No,
up
he's
my
not
time.
belligerent. You're not listening.
My next comment is that the ICE
No, there's no
director-
questions. It's just comments.
No, I had
Yeah.
a question. He didn't answer my question. And so,
Yeah,
The
he
record will
did.
reflect that. What's your next question?
yes, sir.
The
There is a
record.
policy of reviewing and publicly reporting deaths that occur within 30 days of a detainee's release from custody.
Yeah, of 30
and that
days of
policy
release.
existed
Yeah.
to prevent ICE from avoiding accountability by releasing
What the
seriously ill
fuck?
people shortly before they die. And as a
Seriously
nurse,
ill
I find
people.
this deeply troubling change in their reporting posture. Families deserve answers, and Congress should be able to conduct oversight, and the
Fuck
American people
you.
should have confidence that deaths connected to federal detention are not being hidden through administrative loopholes or filibustering. Transparency is not optional. There are laws and reporting requirements, and if this administration is unwilling to account for what happens to people in its custody, then it's Congress's role to question whether it deserves more authority, more detention capacity, or any additional cent from the American people. Mr. Chairman, thank you for letting me finish my comments, and I yield back.
Thank you. You have been much more timely than a couple of your predecessors on either side of the aisle, and I appreciate that.
Oh, I'm sure you do. 'Cause you sure as hell love kissing ass in this hearing. It's been a while since I watched that clip, and I'm sorry, but this is I just I see that, and you know, I wasn't even gonna go any farther, but I have to do this now because you notice all the indignant and righteous anger that's coming down because of the horrible conditions for these poor migrants that are just trying to get back to their families and cry me a river, bitch. But there's something really interesting about the way that they treat these situations, because you notice she's concerned that they're not complying with an order to report deaths up to a fucking month after they're released from ICE custody. Why? Because who knows what? They're dying from the effects of the diseases that they were subjected to and contracted while they're, or maybe they're dying because they fled their home country and they came back to it because it's a fucking gang-ridden third world hellhole that has no safe places to go, and that's why they left in the first place. Unfortunately, once again, these countries are ones that happily voted in communism, and now we've got the quote-unquote democratic socialists of America, aka a big group of commies that are real excited about taking away everyone's right to free property and right to free speech and right to most definitely the Second Amendment. Every single right there you can say goodbye, because I mean you can see the blueprint being laid right now with Zoran's first couple policies that he's enacting in New York. Well, the last one was rent freezes for all people paying rent in New York at the current levels, not consulting with the landlords, not consulting with the tenants, not consulting with anyone who does repairs, not consulting with any engineers or anyone who would know anything about the structural integrity or the shape of the buildings that you're talking about. If any of these buildings require any kind of extra attention or serious repair work done, they won't have the money to do it because they can't increase wages, increase their prices, and it just it just it reminds me of a quote from everyone's friend, the guy who constantly fetishizes about things like, I don't know, death and Hamas and dog electrocutions and socialism and what's his name? What's his name again? I can't remember. That's right. That's right. What did he say about landlords again? Kill those motherfuckers. Murder them in the streets. Let the streets soak in the red capitalists' bloods, dude. Doesn't even know fucking how to pronounce a sentence. Anyway, but that's how he feels about it. That's how he's felt about it for quite a long time, obviously. And Zoran is happily delivering by, once again reaffirming from the perspective of socialism, you shouldn't be able to make any kind of a living by, renting out properties and making repairs as necessary and being a good landlord and doing the things you would be required to do under law. No, you can't even decide the wages of your own buildings. They have to be frozen in place now for 2 straight freaking years, despite whatever conditions might arise. Why? Socialism. It's obviously the superior system, of course. We have to go with that. And the reason anybody actually does anything to pretend like this is some wonderful idea is because they have no fucking clue what they're talking about. There's no other way around it. They have no fucking clue what they're talking about. Now, let's just dive into the world of leftist ideology, shall we? This is all a prelude, by the way. So, I've been noticing this sort of trend a lot lately, and it's kind of gross and disgusting and sickening, and it really makes me want to punch a hole in my wall almost with how fucking furious it makes me when I hear this kind of bullshit. But in particular, you might remember, nonstop, time after time, ad nauseum, like it's a broken goddamn record, Brian Shapiro, in any debate at all that comes up about Trump, he's going to bring up January 6th, of course. And what does he always go to for his reasoning for bringing up January 6th? They beat police officers. They seriously injured several police officers. They beat police officers with their own billy clubs. They seriously caused trauma to lasting trauma to all these poor police officers in the Capitol just trying to do their job. Meanwhile, you have ICE, literally another government agency, literally doing exactly what they're supposed to do under law, literally in places that are extremely, extremely hostile, with people every time they go out, constantly, nonstop, parading around, being violent, blowing air horns in their face, blowing whistles in their ears, doing whatever they can to antagonize them, shooting fireworks at them, throwing freaking, blocks of ice at them, throwing frozen milkshakes, Molotov cocktails. And what happened on January 6th? As far as agents, police officers that were killed. Well, there were no police officers killed on January 6th, regardless of what the left might tell you. Not one police officer was killed, and Officer Brian Sicknick, the infamous Brian Sicknick, he died from something that had nothing to do with any injuries sustained on January 6th. Something like 2 or 3 weeks after January 6th, and it was an ongoing medical concern that unfortunately claimed his life. And also, unfortunately, it just had to happen, within the same year, I guess, as apparently, the January 6th incident, because that means that now people like Brian can run around and act like it's this horrible stain on the Trump administration that this happened. One big question, because the only records of people we do have were Ashley Babbitt, of course, and then there's been a lot of talk lately, finally, about this other individual. It was supposedly an older lady, not like elderly, but like, like not young either, like we're talking like maybe 60s, who was not really fast enough to keep up with the crowd when tear gas and things were shot out. And then after being mostly trampled by a good portion of the crowd, was then more or less finished off by a couple of other agents that just were trying to, I guess, throw her to her feet and get her out, but then decided they'll just beat the crap out of her. Now, I don't know the full story. That may be completely off, but there are records of another person being killed by the Capitol Police agents. And this is in no way to criticize the Capitol Police, who were at a terrible spot that day, but the responsibility, of course, lays on the people who did not approve of the National Guard being called up to provide extra security that day. Now, Trump approved of it days in advance and sent it to the next people in line that would need to approve of that to happen before you can release the National Guard. And who would that be? Speaker of the House, the mayor of D.C., and the sergeant-at-arms of the House and the Senate. Not one of those four individuals, not one, signed off on that important step of having the National Guard prepared on January 6th. The only one that did was Donald Trump. And yet it's all his fault, as places like the UK and Australia and everywhere around the world with their leftist media that's state-run. Again, socialism, yay, state-run media. Imagine every channel in the United States being NPR. That's like, that's sort of a similar situation. But now, imagine the idea that an agent is in the middle of an unruly mob, a federal law enforcement agent, and this member of the unruly mob gets in a car and attempts to run the agent over. And in his moment of panic and potentially a moment where his life is flashing before his eyes like he's about to die, he stops the threat by pulling out his service weapon and firing 3 shots. The most evil 3 shots that were ever fired on Earth. Except for, of course, the next ones, because the guy who on several occasions had tormented other ICE officers by, once again, running up behind them, blowing air horns in their face, blowing their whistles in their ears. And this guy, who, being the fucking genius that he was, decided he was going to carry a pistol on his waist that was loaded to all these protests that got violent with ICE officers. And he was also going to evade arrest several times while they attempted to drag him down to the ground, and yet he was such a weaselly, squirrely little fuck that he managed to squirm his ass away. But on this particular day, he wasn't able to because there was quite a few agents, and yet because he, has this gun on his waist and he's leaned over, they see the gun, and of course, This guy's been violent before. Everybody in the area seemed to know him. And as he's reaching, even though an agent had cleared the gun, he had not called out, "It's clear, clear, I have the weapon." Evidenced, by the way, by the fact that after the incident, one of the first questions asked by the other agents was, where's the gun? Where's the gun? They had no idea. They thought he was still armed. Reasonably so. It's still a tragedy. It still sucks. And yet they did what they had to do in a situation like that to protect their lives. They will not stop talking about these incidents. Now, what do they have to say about Officer Byrd? You know, the guy who shot... oh, jeez. The agent who shot Ashley Babbitt on January 6th. What was she doing? Was she in a car attempting to run over agent? No. Was she someone who was there frequently and always doing damage to the building, always antagonizing, the Capitol Police, always antagonizing members of law enforcement? No. Was she in any way known by a criminal record or had any kind of history of violence or anything, any kind of law enforcement infraction on a record? No. As a matter of fact, she was a U.S. veteran who was deployed to different war zones in the United States military. What was she doing? Well, a window was broken, and several people were crawling through that window, and she happened to crawl through the window just as Officer Byrd decided, I want to kill one of these fuckers. And for what seems to me like no real apparent reason other than she just happened to be the lucky winner who popped in the window at that time, he shot her in the neck. The Democrats won't mention that one time. Nor will they mention the fact that when her mother was on Capitol grounds at one point, while the Capitol was open, by the way, and there was no reason for her to be detained, restrained, or to believe she was up to anything criminal at all, they just didn't like it. So they had her arrested too. Mother who lost her daughter protesting against Capitol Police over enforcement, sort of police state like, not even among Capitol Police, among one agent who, by the way, was so fucking irresponsible with his weapon. One time he left it in the fucking public bathroom in the Capitol. They don't care about that. They have not one interest in discussing that whole freaking case. Instead, they like going on endless tirades about how this was a terrible event. This was the worst event in our history because why? Donald Trump sent these people to... Because, he's a puppet master of all of them. He was just, mind controlling everyone to go to the Capitol. They didn't really want to do it, which is why they arrested them all and charged them all and threw them away in prison without really a fair hearing. You know how many of them got plea deals that turned out to be not the plea deal they were expecting when they got into court on the day they were supposed to actually receive their hearing? They suddenly realized I'm getting charged with something totally different than I agreed to be my plea deal. And they didn't care. They didn't care whatever they had fucking promised them. Well, tough luck. And that's if you're lucky enough even to have a fucking court date. A lot of them were just kept in solitary confinement until they decided like they felt like it was time for them to pull them out for their trial. And some of them didn't even ever get out of that situation. Now, this whole situation is what the Democrats have been going on and on about, how it was this horrible, horrible infraction on the United States. It was an insurrection to take over the government. Well, first of all, they were so far from successful that it would be laughable if that was what they're actually trying to do. Meanwhile, if you just watch certain portions of the footage, you see people like the infamous QAnon shaman, a.k.a. the devil himself, apparently, who said, "Everyone, please remain peaceful. These officers are gracious enough to allow us to protest peacefully on Capitol grounds." I mean, the epitome of U.S. protests done in a peaceful manner, whether or not they're trespassing or not. Now, maybe they were trespassing. I'd say attempting to run over a fucking ICE agent with your car is a little more serious than fucking trespassing. And yet, what's the problem? Oh, yeah. Donald Trump and the evil insurrectionists on January 6th, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, it's all that, yeah. Like Enrique Tarrio, who wasn't even on Capitol, wasn't even in Washington, D.C., as far as I know, on the day of January 6th. But since he was the leader of the Proud Boys, you know, that evil gang of people who actually were formed to be a club of guys that like to go out and drink and party, and when Antifa started attacking them because they were proud to be American, basically, they decided we're not going to let these little faggoty leftist black bloc queers just come up and attack us and not fight back. We're going to kick their asses. And they did, and that's why they became infamous. It has nothing to do with some fucking terrorist plot by the Proud Boys. They're not some, as much as Piers Morgan might try to argue otherwise, the Proud Boys are not an extremist right-wing organization. But anyway, so with all that in mind, and you know the supposed point here with Democrats that that they're so what's the word? They're so empathetic to the plight of the average American. They understand the struggles of poor Americans who have to, and poor immigrants for that matter. Meanwhile, back in reality, we have a hearing. I was going to talk about this as all one clip, but I'm not going to get to it now because this was a lot longer than I thought just for this part of the video. But this was kind of the catalyst for doing this subject in the first place. So I guess I should show, or you know what? Hold on a second. Maybe I can save that one for a little bit later. Even though that was the catalyst for the video, there is another one that is not quite as powerful, but equally as important. Maybe not equally as important either, but it's a pattern of behavior. It's a pattern of behavior of covering up the misdeeds and the true factual information that makes Democrats look bad, and using whatever tactics necessary, including silencing, striking down, and manipulating the rules of the House and the Senate to only work in their favor at the expense of both the Republican Party and their voters, and quite frankly, every American citizen who actually cares about the Constitution and our constitutional rights, like the right to free speech. So, on the House floor, during a what was this, a resolution vote? Yeah, you know, the kinds of things that they do that waste a shit ton of time. A resolution, a.k.a. they condemn something. We condemn the genocide in Gaza. Yeah, the genocide in Gaza. I do too, actually. It's at the hands of Hamas. I condemn it as well, but I think we're talking about different things here. But that's not really what they care about. What do they care about? Well, they care about themselves, of course, and their image. And so, you know, somebody speaking about, you know, potentially the fact that you are hanging out with group chats with confirmed members of said terrorist organization. Whew, man, that's not a good look. In fact, you might argue that that actually is one of the worst looks you could possibly have as someone who's supposedly representing the American people. And, I mean, as we all know, what's the greatest threat to America?
That's 8-8.
That's right. That's 8-8. Even though that has nothing to do with, I guess, Hamas and Hezbollah might be a good 8-8 to be fixated on, as opposed to the one that Frank Fugazi there is talking about. But and actually, that's a good point. I should use that. I should definitely use that. 8-8 and Hamas and Hezbollah, pretty dangerous. Yeah, I would agree. But no, what we're really, of course, talking about is something far more important. Far, far, far more important. And, of course, you know, there's only one response that you can actually have and still be a good person when you see this sort of thing happening, and that is you grab a pot, you walk out on the nearest balcony, and you do this.
Palestinian people, this is all for you.
That's right. You declare, Palestinian people, this is for you, and then you bang on that pot. There's no more profound or powerful message that can be sent from the heart of Washington, D.C. for the plight of the Palestinian people. Jesus. But that same senator is just so happens to be the one who may, in fact, be discussing, hanging out on in her spare time with members of Hamas. So just watch this little incident that takes place and marvel at the absolute, complete and total shamelessness of this supposed representative of American people. And then when you see this, ask yourself, how the fuck would anybody vote for this to represent anything about them unless they also, apparently, I guess, are either for or members of that terrorist organization or supportive of that terrorist organization in some way, shape, or form. I would love to know how anything related to that has to do with the benefit of American people in this country and what it's doing on the floor of the fucking House of Representatives in the United States. So marvel at this example, everybody, and buckle up. This is one hell of a demonstration of just exactly where the parties are at this point in time, and the difference between the two parties right now, and why one of them obviously is complete. Republicans might not always be the best people for representing the interests of Americans. Democrats don't ever represent the interests of Americans. They're not even interested in pretending like they care about Americans or pretend to care about the interests of the American citizens and what would be in their best interest when they're in the position to do just that. They're more concerned about the Palestinians. So, without further ado, here we go.
I'm going to yield some time to my colleague, Mr. Miller, here. 4 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman is recognized for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in opposition to H-Con Res 84, but like most of my colleagues, whether they'll admit it or not, I am a little confused. The United States, to my knowledge, doesn't have any troops in Lebanon. In fact, the last time American service members were deployed in Lebanon was in 1984. Even though the gentlelady from Michigan believes that the U.S. is the root of all evil, the United States is playing a vital role in advancing peace, security, and stability in Lebanon as we currently speak. Just a couple of days ago, President Trump brokered a pause to further defensive Israeli military action in southern Lebanon, and the U.S. State Department has hosted several rounds of historic peace talks, as we've currently been seeing. Regardless of what the gentlelady from Michigan will tell you, the greatest threat to Lebanon remains the Iranian regime and its terrorist proxy, Hezbollah, not the United States, and not Israel, as that country has come out more of the gentlelady's mouth in the United States, and I believe that's who she's seeking to remove from Lebanon. But if my colleagues on the other side actually cared about the people of Lebanon, which it's clear they don't, they would cheer on the elimination of these bloodthirsty terrorists, not advancing meaningless resolutions to denigrate American foreign policy only to embolden them. For decades, Iran has used Hezbollah to project power throughout the Middle East. In the process, Hezbollah has weakened the Lebanese state and repeatedly drawn Lebanon into conflicts that serve Tehran's interest. While I can appreciate the passion from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I do not appreciate their lack of education and understanding of what is really going on there. So let us be clear. Hezbollah is a terrorist organization from the gentlelady from Michigan, and its members are butchers that you like to hang out with to a certain extent. No nation can be fully sovereign when an armed group operates outside the authority of its elected.
And that is what seals his fate. That one single line of occasionally likes to hang out with. Just wait, though, because there's actually quite a twist, and one that I kind of saw coming, but regardless, it's just so beautiful. Yeah, and really unbelievable, and shows exactly what the issue is in this country with both our system of government and exactly why it seems like nothing ever gets done that advances the interests of the people. And it's about to be on full display right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we getting a little emotional?
Gentlemen will suspend.
Oh, gentlemen will suspend.
Behind me, wait. I couldn't see what you had there. Hold on.
Gentlewoman making a demand to take words down.
I certainly believe you advocate for them, yes. You advocate for terrorists on a daily basis.
The House will be in order.
You advocate for a terrorist regime every single day, from the gentlelady from Michigan.
The House will be in order.
Listen to her over there.
The House will
fucking
be in order.
Going.
You associate yourself with them.
Colleagues, this is a serious topic. We will debate it.
Oh, it's a serious topic,
respectfully
yeah.
and deliberately. Is the gentlewoman from Michigan making a motion to take down?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I am. That is a direct attack on my character.
Oh, poor you. That's a direct attack on Rashida Tlaib's character. You know, if I didn't know any better, I'd say that she's a little sensitive about the idea that she likes hanging out with terrorists. Even though, well, stay tuned. But this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is case in point centerpiece for the United States House of Representatives. You wonder why they have trouble deporting illegals. You wonder why they can't pass any kind of funding for certain agencies that absolutely should be funded while they send money around the world, not to Israel, not to AIPAC organizations, not to all these conspiratorial Jewish state ideas, but to literal havens of Islamic terror where they try to promote LGBT values and DEI values and the values of, I mean, it overcame all of the freaking government agencies. Like, it started with, I would say probably kind of centered around USAID, but they were far from the only organization that was infected with that ridiculous garbage. There was tons of government agencies and organizations that were tasked, with really one main goal. And what was that main goal? Well, was to, of course, export American values. And what were American values? Yeah, chopping the breasts off of 13, 14, 15-year-olds and chopping the dicks off of 16-year-old boys, pumping them full of hormones from the opposite gender, and encouraging them to go compete in the other division of sports. And that's American values, of course, equality. Unless we're talking about admissions into schooling, and then in which case the evil white kids, and of course also I guess the evil Asian kids are always just performing so damn well. It's not fair. It's not fair they perform so well. We need the playing field equaled, meaning they need to be dumber and treated dumber, because we're treated worse because we don't get the same grades. But who fucking cares about that? We need the same opportunities. DEI. Oh yeah, and then of course there was the time-honored tradition of what is that old policy that everybody was so excited for? Affirmative action. That's right. That one was in place first, but when they give it a new name and a new spin, then it's like, oh, we're doing something that's so progressive now, man. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, speaking of progressive, also includes doing things like what happened with Germany and ditching out on fossil fuels entirely in lieu of some green energy scam that has left the country without a reliable source of energy and kind of overall in just a real fucking misery because, turns out it's really fucking cold in Germany in the winter. But, these sort of self-flagellating rituals where, they go into their little confessional booth, they kneel on the ground, they take their whip and they keep smacking themselves over and over again because they didn't promote the DEI gods correctly. That's what they charge. They're like the priest. They charge the peasants to go and do that when they're, especially the white people and the Asian people, of course, to go and do that to properly atone for the sin of being a lighter shade of color than their fellow student, who, has access to all the same facilities and resources and professors and books and all that stuff, and yet it's their decisions, because there's so many successful people from all over the world that come to the United States and make a successful living, and that is proof that there's nothing unfair about the system. It's people that get into it thinking that, I used to think this way about, but I didn't used to think this way. This is my kind of analysis, being someone who's always been involved in some kind of artistic endeavor my entire life, as I've talked about before, whether I was in advertising, whether I was a tattooer, whether I was playing music, whatever it was. I knew a lot of people that did all of those things, and they really didn't give a shit about those things. They didn't care about art. They didn't care about music. They didn't care about tattoos. They didn't care about people's, being satisfied with whatever they got. They got into it because they thought it was the easiest way they had to make a buck, basically. These people had no sense of skill or any dedication to the trade or the craft at all. They had no desire to advance. They had no drive to, even show up on time, really. They just thought this was their ticket to the easy street. So they would get into it, and then they'd make it harder on everybody else. But in some ways, I'm kind of glad it was that way, because it kept people sharp when they were wanting to stand out. Like, I've said this several times, and it's true. Being one of the only people that I knew only like 3 people, I think, maybe total, me included, that ever, 4. 4 people, including me, that I ever met, that actually completed a formal apprenticeship and went on to become a tattooer after completing that process. And that's, I mean like an actual formal, over a year-long process of being under the tutelage of a veteran artist and having them take you from the ground up and teaching you the inside out, everything about the trade. And when it comes to trades, that's still done a lot today, but nobody promotes those anymore. Nobody talks about those anymore. I was lucky that tattooing actually was such an isolated and well, more, I guess, insulated sort of career choice that is still, at least it was. Now, after it kind of exploded in popularity, there was a lot more attention drawn to it, unfortunately, and that drew out the leeches. But even then, after that, there were people that still were pretty good about keeping the actual trade itself and the customs and the history. Like, I know a lot about tattoo history, like from the 30s and 40s, 50s, and a little bit of Japanese history in tattooing as well, because Horiyoshi 3 was one of my favorite artists. But that kind of thing, you'll never find that in a college or in an educational environment like that. But the point is that when you're told this is the way you succeed in life, you go to these schools, it doesn't matter what you take, you just go to the schools, and then you're going to get the piece of paper, and then you're going to get a job, and you'll be making more money, and then it comes out the other end, and you have nothing like that. You get angry, but then you see, when you're indoctrinated the whole time to believe that everything is the fault of the Republican Party, who had no part of that encouragement. Actually, more often than not, they're the ones encouraging people to get into a trade at this point, because they're usually far more lucrative in the long run at this point than going to a school if you're going to take, African lesbian dance theory or something along those lines, as Matt Walsh likes to say a lot. But when you have no real interest in anything other than getting it done now as fast as possible so you can get the paycheck, you're not going to learn anything of value. You're never going to learn anything that's going to benefit you at all, much less in the long run, to be not just self-sustaining, but a benefit to your community, your family, and anyone else, even yourself, because you're just looking for the quick buck. Why do I bring all this up? Well, if that's American value, then that's what these people are exporting. They're not exporting what is the historical American drive and tradition and really the source of all prosperity that we were born into, the entrepreneurial spirit, or the spirit of being able to fill in that role of the rough and never say die sort of mentality of the guy who goes to work and does his job no matter what, and makes sure he does it right, and gets the hard things done for the benefit of everyone in that community. That's all kind of been swept under the rug. The whole point of the system that was put in place has been completely squashed, completely buried, and decided that we were just going to not even mark the grave. Even we're just going to leave it there, and now we're going to celebrate something else. We're going to celebrate no longer equal opportunity, but equal outcomes that we're going to ensure that we provide to everybody by DEI. And that means that it doesn't matter who you are, unless you're white and Asian, because brown people and black people need more. So its real purpose, it has nothing to do with helping black people. It has nothing to do with really harming white people, more or less. It mostly has to do with dividing the population by creating a fake boogeyman in the racism narrative. When really, in actuality, the people that are in the Democratic Party that have been pushing these sorts of things, they're the ones that were the racists. They're the ones that were the most skeptical of policies that would benefit minorities until that was already in place, and then they're like, "Oh shit, better jump aboard before I lose all my pull in Congress." So I'll just start singing a different tune right now, and no one questioned it afterwards until it became necessary to basically really do away with it. But Joe Biden himself, I played this before, but I think the situation calls for it because I'll play it again. What was it? Oh, do I have it still on here? Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't anymore. I might have removed it. Yeah, I guess I don't have it anymore. Joe Biden throwing around the actual N-word in Congress, the actual N-word, the real one before it became commonplace to use it in the hippity hop. But no, of course. How about in place? I play this. Woo, Obama! There we go. Instead. Because a lot of these policies did start with Obama. A lot of segregation did start with Obama, sadly. He was celebrated in so many ways for being someone who was going to show that America had overcome one of the most controversial sort of divides that had ever really plagued the country, and that was those who supported second-class citizens or even slavery for minority groups, and those that fought against it. And those that fought against it were successful, and then we were with a two-term black president, and suddenly race relations got worse than ever. Why? Because politically speaking, it was more expedient for Obama to blame the white man and blame racism than to admit that he just was a fucking shitty president and he screwed up. He had bad policies. He declared really, really bad strikes on places which you want to talk about innocent people getting killed in foreign countries. Oh, you think Donald Trump is responsible for something bad? Just take one look at fucking Obama's record of innocent people, and not just foreign citizens. How about American citizens? Even in those, has Trump ever accidentally bombed any Americans on that? No, I don't think so. Obama did, though, and he wanted you to shut the fuck up about it and not mention it anymore. Why? Because he's Obama, damn it. And if you don't celebrate Obama, then you're racist. Woo, Obama! That's right. But anyway, this is the cancer that had been ultimately, at some point, for all intents and purposes, looked like it had been cured. And yet these pieces of garbage decided, nah, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to make sure we sabotage the treatment. We are going to exploit that cancer for everything that it's worth. We're going to bring it back full force and make it even worse. And they're getting their wish now. And what is it leading to? It's leading to them throwing temper tantrums in the middle of Congress because someone suggested that they were friendly with terrorists while they supported a terrorist regime in a country that was under the control of that terrorist regime. So, just to conclude this clip, once again, your lovely representative here who's surely thinking about nothing but your needs and your well-being is continuing to bitch and moan that somebody said something that she found insulting in Congress.
I please
Gentleman from
request
Ohio will
to
be
strike
seated.
What
words
a
down.
Gentleman from
useless
Ohio will be
piece
seated.
of shit. You can't do that.
No member is currently recognized for debate.
Oh,
The
and the
gentleman
president really
from
helps
Ohio
out
will
a
be
ton.
seated. The clerk will report the words.
the
Let
words.
us be clear. Hezbollah is a terrorist organization, and the gentlewoman of Michigan and its members are butchers that you like to, hang out with to a certain extent.
The chair is prepared to rule. The words of the gentleman from Ohio contain an allegation that the gentlewoman from Michigan is a butcher and affiliated with a terrorist organization. Such remarks impugn the patriotism and loyalty of the member of the House, which is not in order, as stated in Section 361 of the House Rules and Manual.
Now, what was that again? They do what? They do what again? Let's hear that from the speaker in the House at the moment. Let's hear this.
Affiliated with a terrorist organization. Such remarks impugn the patriotism and loyalty of the member of the House, which
They impugn the patriotism and loyalty of Rashida fucking Tlaib. Are you kidding me? What patriotism? What integrity? I would say she has neither. I would, as a matter of fact, say the antithesis of patriotism and, what was it again? I can't even remember. This is so ridiculous. I'm
affiliated with a terrorist organization. Such remarks impugn the patriotism and loyalty of the member.
Loyalty, yeah. Loyalty. Loyalty. The loyalty of Rashida Tlaib and the integrity of Rashida Tlaib. There's no such thing. She has neither. She's a useless, dumbass moron that has nothing to offer anybody. And what's she doing in Congress? Oh, she's wasting everybody's time, striking words from the record that she's offended by, even though there's a twist coming still. Flipping out anytime anybody says anything negative about her while she struts around like she's some super strong, independent woman. Meanwhile, she can't even handle somebody saying something that is pretty fucking obvious by the way she runs around with this holier-than-thou attitude of how dare you say anything so terrible against the people of Gaza. I can't ever remember you saying one nice thing at all about the country that you live in, the one you supposedly are representing people in. Why the fuck are we listening? Who the fuck votes for these people? This is my ultimate question. One of the biggest reasons I want to see the Save America Act passed is I really want to see if it's all enforced to be Americans only that vote. Do these hacks stay? I would suggest that it's possible that the only reason that people like this are even here is because of people that have no business voting whatsoever. Who the fuck would be excited about... What does she do? She's hardly ever there, and when she is there, it's for some fucking PR stunt. Like this. She feigns all this offense, and then she treats it like it's the most insensitive, horrible comments to ever be uttered. Of course, fuck free speech. Of course, we don't need to worry about that thing because her feelings are hurt by the fact that you called her out for her support of a country governed by a fucking terrorist organization. So anyway, as this useless fucking speaker over the House continues, we're gonna get to the last, and there's more than one, but the last little zinger.
The House, which is not in order, as stated in Section
Not in
361 of
order.
the
Yeah,
House
hear that?
Rules
Not in
and
order,
Manual.
guys.
The chair relies on the precedent of December 14th, 2021 as carried in such section of the manual and finds that the remarks contain personalities and are not in order. Without objection, the offending words are stricken from the record. The gentleman from Florida is recognized.
I'd inquire how many minutes I have of debate remaining.
The gentleman has 20 minutes remaining.
Very good. And I
Prime
would
Mast.
also inquire can Representative Miller still speak
listen to
or
this.
not?
The gentleman from Ohio may not speak for the remainder of the day.
Very good.
Ah.
I recognize my...
So, he not only has his words stricken from the record, not only did he have his speech interrupted, now he's no longer allowed to speak for the rest of the day because of that offhand comment. Because poor Rashida Tlaib's integrity was called into question. What a fucking bitch. So Brian Mast is about to drop a nuke on this fucking cunt. I'm sorry, but here we go. Let's just listen to the rest of this.
Myself for as much time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized for a further 20 minutes.
Going to deliver a message from Representative Miller of Ohio. Yes, I said it, I own it, and I stand by it. And I'd like to submit this for the record.
That will be covered under general leave.
Take your word on it. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to submit for the record an article entitled, Rashida Tlaib, member of secret Facebook group where Hamas terrorists glorified.
What was that again? I'm sorry, Brian Mast. I love you, dude. Well, what did you just say? What did you just say? Something about Rashida Tlaib being involved in a group that's glorifying terrorists? What? No. You mean to tell me that...
That will be...
Take your word on it. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to submit for the record an article entitled, Rashida Tlaib, member of secret Facebook group where Hamas terrorists glorified.
Rashida Tlaib, member of secret Facebook group where Hamas members are glorified. Wow. Oh, wow. So let me get this straight. What the guy said about her kind of occasionally enjoying hanging out with terrorists was 100% fucking true. And yet, because of her fifis, we can't have that. That breaks decorum. This distinguished hall, that protects terrorist supporters. Are you fucking kidding me? Now watch this disgrace. What he has to say about that. Oh, Jesus.
Is there
of course,
objection?
throwing a tantrum.
Objection is heard.
Oh, the objection is heard.
Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to submit for the record
There's more.
the transcript of the Congresswoman from Michigan, the transcript of HRES 845, which notes that she is the only one calling for genocide. She was reprimanded bipartisanly by the House of Representatives.
Is there objection?
Censured for her comments for
Objection is
genocide.
heard.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Mr. Speaker.
An objection is heard.
The objection.
An objection is heard.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Can there be an objection?
Gentleman will state the point of order.
Can there be an objection to the record being stricken from the record? This is HRES 845, which was a bipartisan vote to censure the representative for her genocidal comments. So can we, so something in the record already cannot be placed into the record? Because this was a vote, bipartisan vote.
That motion requires unanimous consent. An objection was heard.
Interesting. Learned something new today. All right. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to submit for the record another article. Watchdog released titled, something titled, an article titled, Watchdog releases scathing report on Tlaib's alleged ties to terrorist groups, warning of potential risks.
An objection is heard.
Very good. Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
So, not one thing he just offered was admitted into the record, even though it's not really important to have anything in the record. We have cameras and phones and technology now that makes it kind of obsolete to have a written record of this kind of thing. And yet, Rashida Tlaib's still over there throwing her fucking temper tantrum about all this stuff. Because why exactly? If I mean, you're out there doing, you know, you're fighting the good fight, right? For the poor citizens of Palestine and their governing body. And now you don't want any of that in the record because it's Hamas and you know you look like a fucking piece of shit, but you can't let that get into the record. Oh my God. Here's the overall point. That body, I swear, somebody tell me what it is that body is doing that has any fucking relevance to the American people. Please tell me how anything that was going on there, which there's a resolution brought up that was so important from that fucking dumb bitch who's fucking more concerned about Palestinians and Americans and just has to have her little floor tantrum to talk about how we condemn the Jews, I mean Israel, for their genocide. And yeah, their genocide in Gaza, aka, you know, trying to kill the terrorists because they haven't been, you know, killing nearly as many people as Hamas has. And I mean Hamas killing their own. Which, by the way, as Piers Morgan drowns out all the fucking dissent going on and on about children, is he talking about the children employed by Hamas or, you know, employed? What am I talking about? Used by Hamas to be suicide bombers, you know, I guess as young as 10, 11, 12, or as young as 5, 6 to run the guns, to support the members, to throw stones at IDF members. Is he talking about that? No, he's not talking about that. He's talking about Israel attempting to kill terrorists and then them grabbing a kid, pulling him in front of them, and then them shooting the kid and then going, murder! And Rashida Tlaib's totally in support of those people. What the fuck does that individual bring to the United States? What the fuck does she do that helps this country at all? Other than take all of the money of the taxpayers of the city that's dumb enough to vote her into office so that she can run around and parade this bullshit propaganda on the floor of the House because the poor Palestinians are getting genocided by Israel. Whatever happens going forward in the United States, something has to be done to address the idea that this idea of the House and the Senate as it is operating at this point in time, this is not, what is this? How does this help the United States? What is this doing? What part of this is beneficial enough that we need to be handing out taxpayer money to this shit, this fucking circus going on that is doing nothing but parading around the people of Palestine as victims of the evil villain Israel so that we can use that as our next talking point for when we have to go up for election, which we're going to win anyway because we've basically rigged it so that, you know, all the Islamic terrorist supporters are all in one region. They're going to vote for her. So if you actually happen to be somebody who grew up there and as a kid were enjoying the, you know, black kids, white kids, brown kids, yellow kids, red kids, kids from all different walks of life and all different, even maybe a few Islamic kids. And now all of a sudden it's filled to the brim with a bunch of jihadists. Well, tough luck for you. But Lord knows that you probably live in so much poverty, there's no chance of you being able to figure out a way to get the hell out of there. So you're just stuck with this bitch as your representative who isn't not even one time in the day do those people even cross her mind. Not once, I guarantee you. She's not concerned about the people in her district. I guess maybe she is. She considers her district to be the one overseas in Palestine. And the only thing she's trying to advance is from the river to the sea. So, I mean, I know it's kind of a radical, it's a radical statement, but after watching this fucking charade of pretending to play politician this whole time, a bunch of bottom-feeding pieces of crap. I'm sorry. Something needs to happen to reform the way that this body operates, because not one thing I saw here was deserving of any time, any effort, organization, any amount of not even worth the phone call used to call Mark Wayne Mullen over to the fucking Capitol building. And this is not the function of the legislative branch of government. I'm sorry, that this is not what it's supposed to do. It's not supposed to spend its time concerned with resolutions to support the Palestinian people, when every other time you're talking about something in front of a camera, it's to bash Republicans for not supporting, the people of color in your district enough, because that's the talking point you need for the elections. And meanwhile, when you're on the news or when you're on speaking on the national platform, then it's all about drumming up support for Islamic countries that they're just struggling to get by in the land that was given to them by fucking Israel. But regardless of any of that, why in the hell is that being discussed on the floor of the House when supposedly we're in the middle of this gigantic crisis with a dictator in the White House? And it just shows you they don't believe it. It sure as hell is not the truth. It's another talking point that's stacked on top of other talking points that they use constantly to get the American people just on pins and needles constantly. I'm freaking furious constantly because I'm listening to this autistic shit. And yet, somehow, some way, they end up becoming the incumbents in an ever-looping cycle of getting reelected, so they can keep doing this. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. I don't care what you could burn the money if you want. It's better than it going to this. At least nobody's being radicalized by that. They burn a flag, but you burn a $5 bill, they'll come and kick your ass. And then they want to criticize the Jews. Sorry, that was a tasteless joke, but still, the point remains. These people have no fucking conscience. They couldn't care less about anything at all, except for ideological battles that they think will help them politically. And I guess maybe they're friends, apparently, in the upper ranks of their little terrorist buddies that they are so angry about being talked about. Only in this context, though. She's going to hop on Discord as soon as she gets home and says, "Can you believe what they said?" So, sorry for all the downing and negativity on this one, because, once again, I missed 250. And I guess I'll just say this at the conclusion. It's, if you haven't watched Donald Trump's speech, check it out. It's definitely worth checking out. It's also worth checking out the World War II veterans that were able. That was heart-wrenching almost. It was hard to watch just because of how emotional it was to see every single one of them over 100 years old, coming and one who insisted on standing out of his chair to stand in front of the flag. It was an amazing sight, and once again a reminder, like where else does that happen? Where else do you have people that are in their century-long lifespan coming to the capital of their country, on stage with the president of that country, in front of the flag that they fought to defend during one of the most pivotal wars in the history of the planet, when they came out and saved us from annihilation, really. And it is sort of kind of, even though I'm disappointed in 2020's result, I have to say that the potential of somebody else speaking during 250 is so, I can't imagine it being anybody but Donald Trump for this event. So by some strange, weird act of providence, I guess, or something, that was very, very probably one of the most essential things that could have happened. That was, I think, necessary for the country. So, give it a watch if you haven't. And next time I'll have a little bit more of a. I'll try to have a little bit more comical material as well as the rest of this charade. Next time it's going to be having to deal a lot more with border crossings as opposed to across on the other side of the world. But I thought this was really important for this one, especially because of just the disgrace it was putting on display. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys in the next one. Unfortunately, like I said, I wish I could give you a for sure on any time, but I can't. I will be back, though, as soon as I can. You have my word on that one. So until then, take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Peace.
Five, four, three. That's tomorrow, and that is it. Again. 5, 4, 3. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a. I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.